Hey there, good evening, everyone. My name is Francois, and I want to thank you all for tuning back in for the third segment of episode 5, Back to School 2020. This time around, we're going to continue the conversation with Patricia Trejo and Angel Gomez. Driving that conversation, we have Dr. Maria Armstrong, and they're going to continue discussing ways in which we need to reinvest in public education and some of the solutions that they've been able to provide families during these unprecedented times. We hope you enjoy, and we look forward to seeing you here next week.
And as we always like to begin with, the stories and experiences that we share are not the views that necessarily reflect ALAS or NABSE when they are on our webcast here. So we were talking very intently about communities coming together to provide services to the folks who need them, and not just opening up doors for people to come into, but actually taking it to whoever needs them. And you brought up the point of materials and what materials that come with any kind of learning, whether they're manipulatives or to do the remote if they're using Chromebooks. There's a learning with all of that. And that's even if you have the materials. Can you guys talk a little bit about, the preparation that goes into that, how you all have been able to orchestrate as administrators, provide support, and being able to find out who needs what and how and when you're able to shift materials to people who need them?
Sure. It's wonderful to have partnerships out there in the community that can help support us, either fundraising or providing donations. A lot of the communities, again, the organizations that I'm involved with, a lot of them were gracious with just donating and finding the funds of people that were willing to support, especially the kids that didn't have the Chromebooks specifically, because we had a lot of our families that were Hispanic Latino students that just didn't have the Chromebooks.
Can I stop you there for just a sec, Patricia? I've got to say something. As an old tech teacher back in the day, we've had computers in the classroom for decades. And we're talking about a pivot to try to provide, and we're relying on the goodness of donations and fundraising. When we get our educational dollars, because we do, and the system is not set up equally, we know that. It is run by zip code. And in the zip code that you live, there are very wealthy foundations. But even when you have those materials, there's still a struggle right now. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, more so on the struggle end, even if you have the child behind the computer, like you said, having to navigate it. If they can't have the support, again, it goes back to my personal experience with my daughter, and I was just sharing it with my husband. Like, if we weren't tech savvy, to be able to troubleshoot and help and navigate through those pieces. I feel bad for the kids that don't have that support. Listen, my kids have Alexa. They call Alexa for a math problem, right?
Their mom's not available, they call Alexa.
Right. And so, pero mira, los niños que no tienen Alexa, right? Like, who are they having to turn to say, Mommy, how do I, do this problem? Or what does this word mean? My daughter the other day kept interrupting me because she was like, what does this mean? Or how do you spell this? And because they have to type, right? And she does it, she's 7, so she doesn't know how to type. So she's learning as she's going, right? And so how do you spell this, and having to do it this way, and asking a lot of questions, rightfully so. But yeah, you think about the children in these environments that don't have that fortunate support that others do. It's very challenging. And listen, I don't know the answer to it other than to say that if there are families that are out there that are struggling and need those supports, I'm hoping that they're reaching out to, whether it's the school, their personal school, or the community and organizations that they're comfortable with, or their churches, and of course they can always, reach out to me. In Palm Beach County, they're familiar with, that I'm there to help support, and we've got amazing departments in the school district that can help support. But yeah, I'm hoping that they're not kind of sitting there trying their best to get the education that they need, although it's virtually, right?
Yep. Angel, you want to jump in on that one? Well, you're the one who brought up materials. Look what you started here.
Do I ever want to jump in on that one? First of all, do I ever? I can talk about this all day. First of all, it's great to be with you, Maria, on your podcast and sharing the views and opinions from this little neck of the woods, right in Broward County, Florida. But in regard to the materials, Patricia is right. More than ever, the whole saying about it takes a village, right, to educate a child, more than ever during these times, it is absolutely true that it takes a village. The entire community has to come together to make these difficult times bearable for every student, okay? Now, when you talk about zip codes and inequality and equity and all that, absolutely true. We need to be very careful because a lot of times, as we work with people who want to help, people tend to want to help only those in their community. And I get it. I'm 100% on it. But at the same time, many communities that have a lot help their own, and they end up having much more. And the communities don't have the resources, are not able themselves to help each other. So we need to assess, we actually have done this. So here we have a perfect example. Broward County Public Schools has about 250,000 students. And I know for sure that we have handed out about 125,000, computer devices. Not all of them are laptops. Some are laptops, some are notebooks, some are iPads, right? And it all depends. It was all done based on not only need, but also a grade level. Right? We don't need to give a first grader a laptop, right? They can do the work much better on an iPad, for example. Okay, and the teachers are expected to teach through that iPad, right? And understand the limitations. But yes, 125,000. So we had to actually go through the data and find out who actually needed the laptops, because my kids don't need a laptop from the school district. And my kids go to school in Broward County Public Schools. So why would I take a free laptop if they can use their own? I need to make sure, especially knowing that we only have about 125,000 laptops and not every child will be able to get one, especially knowing that we need to be able to. So my contribution as a parent, right, in this whole entire endeavor where it takes a village to educate a child, is to not take resources that may be offered to me when I don't have the need for them.
That's a really good point, Angel, because I've been wondering about this. Are your districts the same in that thinking where, whatever device we have, we're going to use? We're not going to take something from the school district if we don't need it. Make sure that those that need it, they're getting it. Is that something that was decided as a state, or was that left up to the counties? How did that decision come about? Because I can tell you, there are some districts where they're saying, we don't care if you own whatever device, you have to use the school issued device.
No, and I'll let, of course, I won't speak for Patricia because I don't work in Palm Beach, but I'm almost certain about this. This is definitely a district decision, not a state decision. This is a district decision, and everybody knows their district well and who they are serving. But for us, we made a big deal out of this because we knew that we were going to have that issue. So we welcome the existing devices that kids may have. And as a matter of fact, right now, as we're on the threshold of transitioning back to one-on-one instruction, right, which it's going to be voluntary, right? Only parents who want to send their kids back to school in person, can do so. We're opening the schools coming up in a couple of weeks, okay? Students are able to come to school with their device because the truth is that as a district, we're calling our new stage of education as we transition e-learning phase 2. So basically, all the students are going to continue using the platform of e-learning. It's just that some will be at home, Some will be at learning pods around the community, and some will be in the actual buildings there and schools that they're assigned to, because that allows those parents to a little freedom to get back to their normal work life. Okay, so they will be using that, and we're not able to supply everyone with one, and the parents know. So we've received a very positive response in regards to that, because families, and you can do this by zip codes, because this is very easy. You can do it by schools, and you can tell which schools have issued the most devices and which ones have issued the least number, and it follows that socioeconomic, what is it called, continuum that is around a district. In the areas that need it most.
There's actually a nationwide map now that will show up. It brightens up the U.S. as to where these devices are heavily used and where they're not. If they're, like you said, whether they're district issued or if there's, and you can see the discrepancy of those who have and don't have, right?
Right. And it was district issued. And that's what we explain to people, that, and this is a perfect example, that equity is not always equal. Okay. To bring equity to a district in regards to materials like this type of materials, not every area is going to get an equal amount because the need is not equal. Okay. So we need to always keep that in mind and make sure that we write as districts our own narrative about that. And we will let people change that narrative, because it's very easy to turn that into something ugly. And that's not true. This is being done, like Patricia says, because people are making decisions that have their heart in the right place for children. And that's why it works.
Yeah. You mentioned how in a couple of weeks, your school is going to be offering the option. Both of you have mentioned that. And I'm wondering, your phased-in approach, is it grade specific? Is it a need specific? And the reason I ask is because I'm wondering if that mirrors with leading with equity at the forefront.
Yeah, Patricia, go for it. You start this one.
Well, and maybe let me ask it a different way. So, for example, I think Patricia, you said earlier that it's a parental choice, right? If they feel confident enough to send their child, is it open to all children at this point, all parents?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Here in Palm Beach County, I mean, the option is open to all families. So you as the parent can decide what's best for you and your child. The other thing that I want to bring up too, Maria, that's important is that, yes, the technology pieces are very important to obviously be connected, but the space, right? Like I think about, I have a pretty big house, upstairs, downstairs, right? And there's 5 of us in my house. But I'm not going to lie, we run out of tables and desks. So there are times where I do have my camera off because I'm in a corner in my room, sitting on the floor, put it in a box.
Correct.
Because I ran out. I mean, everybody, my husband at times, if he doesn't, he's an attorney. So if he doesn't have to, be in a deposition or whatever, and so he can work from home, but he needs his privacy because it's all legal. So we have to be out, right? And so I run out of space as far as like desk and table because the girls are occupying, the desk and the tables that we have. So it's most of the time it's me that's in a corner in my room on the floor. So it just reminds me to think of, again, it goes back to our kids, like the ones that are not as fortunate that, again, that are in a home having to share and trying to find a personal space to be able to engage and be interactive. And of course it goes again with the whole camera thing again, goes back to that, right? Yeah. Being sensitive to that part of it. I just had to make sure to highlight that because I don't know if people are talking about this out there. They probably are. I just haven't heard it.
Absolutely.
No, but it's true. It's true, Patricia, absolutely.
Do you think that there's going to be a lot of students of color that will be part of that first phase of going back to school?
Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, going back to your question that you asked, just like Patricia, the district has it open to everybody to choose to come back. The choice is a parent it's a parent choice, and you can choose to come back. We are coming in staggered in 2 dates. The first date that we're coming in, we're going to bring in students that we feel have the most need to come to school. And the way it was done, it was like this: pre-K, K, and first grade, 6th grade, 9th grade, and the centers, the special education centers, and all the ESE students. All those students have the choice to begin school at a little earlier, a week before everybody else, so they can actually come into a building that has less people in it, and they can feel safer. The teachers can feel safer, and they have a week to get into some sort of routine and groove, right, with the new normal, right? And then a week after that, everybody else is welcome to come back. We will know who they are because we are right now in the midst of doing a survey to all of our parents. And parents are actually making a choice, so we know if they're going to commit to coming to school or keeping their child away from the building. And that decision is binding until the turn of the semester. So after winter break. And then after that, we revisit again. But I'm telling you, a lot of the schools, a lot of the kids, just like Patricia said, that have issues with space at home to find that quiet place to work, have issues with, and look, this whole food anxiety, they're not knowing, whether we're going to have food or not. And although we're serving the kids free lunch and free breakfast, the kids cannot make it to school to go pick those up. Okay. So, and at times you can come and pick them up from the schools and they give you enough food for a week. But many times that food, when it's given at one time, doesn't last more than 2 days because there are other people in the family that need the food. So this will help a lot of our kids come back to school and be able to have breakfast and lunch like they're used to, right? In that routine, and have a place in a classroom, that they're able to open their computer and have their camera on and not worry about who walks behind and what noises are made at home and all of that. Because remember, look, I'm Spanish. I have a big house, but everybody and their grandma in my family comes through the house. Spanish families, we're very large, we're very loud, and we live with grandma, tío, abuelito, el sobrino. Everybody's in. We don't say no to people to visit. But for a middle school student or high school student in those circumstances, sometimes it's hard to have all those people behind you making noise. How do you concentrate? So this is going to assist in those that need it the most, especially since it's open to everybody. So that's what I think.
How did you both gain the confidence for that families would need to make the decision to send their child back to school? That's one. And two, did adherence to spacing and PPEs, did all of that play in the conversation to build that confidence?
Absolutely. We have prior surveys from the summer that we have about 2/3 of the people in our district that have shared with us completely. Now, this surveys are done at the school level, and each principal and administration is responsible to making sure that they contact somehow every parent in that school. Okay, so they're almost at the 98 to 100% participation point. Okay, and we had about 2/3 of the people who either wanted to come back full time or wanted to come back in some sort of hybrid mode. So before we actually make the decision to go 100%, we're not going to force people to come because not everybody's at the same level of readiness. And that level of anxiety is very hard to manage. We're talking about people's children, and that's the most emotionally driven, business in the world. So in order to keep people from feeling forced to come back, we made it as a choice. We believe, from studies that we have seen in other urban districts, we believe that we're going to have about 50 to 60% of the kids come back. That's what we believe. Okay. And PPE, we've spent over $10 million on PPE for staff and for students. And in respect to, if you don't come with that mask, we're going to give you a mask, right? But there are so many things to consider with that, because some of the kids that we're talking about are kids that may be autistic, right? And they don't like to wear masks, right? So how do we protect the staff? So all of that falls under that PPE preparation. And I'm telling you, up to this point, I know that they're up to $10 million in Broward County. I don't know, how are you guys doing in Palm Beach, Patricia?
I mean, pretty similar as far as like the options, and the surveys and getting the feedback. I think it's wonderful, that the district has really ensured that our community and our parents are having the opportunity to provide, their voice. So I commend everyone that's been involved with that, because it does help to get a perspective of from the families of what it is that they ultimately would like, for their child.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I can't, we could talk about this stuff all night, right? Because we're like we get so in the weeds about things because we want to really start solving the issues. But I want to just end tonight by saying you two, I hope are two of one of my favorite people, because not only are you ALAS members, but you are up and coming Superintendent Leadership Academy participants. And we couldn't be happier to have you represent Florida in the way that you did, for your honesty, your openness, and your casualness to this conversation. I want to say te agradezco tanto. And I know Angel thinks I owe him, but I think we'll work that out some other way. I think we're probably at even now, Angel. So
yes, for sure.
But with that, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your time and most of your heart and your mind. Thank you.
Hey there, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. And don't forget, if you like what you hear on this podcast and want to learn more about everything Back to School 2020 from various perspectives, then please feel free to subscribe below or tune in weekly every Thursday at 7 p.m. We look forward to seeing you here next week. Take care.